So I've been working on this 2D game. So I've been working on a lot of tools and systems for the game. Here's a time lapse of me working on my hair physics controller and my parallax controller. And that's all I've time lapsed because I'm stupid and I should have time lapsed the other things because I think the other things were way cooler to make. But whatever. Right now, all I really have is a character that I can move around on these Google image icons. Very cool, very cool. We've got parallax controllers. We've got hair physics that is kind of hacky, kind of goofy. We can equip weapons like this. You can equip 2 weapons. Wow. 2-handed, pretty cool. You can equip different weapon types. Woohoo. You can equip 1-handed weapons. Wow, that's cool. Here's a scythe that has a kind of cool animation. A 3-step animation. Very cool. So I've been working on all the animation controllers and all this stuff, specifically making it really easy to implement a lot of weapons. But I've only been just pressing buttons on my keyboards to equip and de-equip weapons, and that's very unintuitive. I think we need an inventory system. So I've been working on the little inventory system for a little bit now. Here's the UI, very bare bones. If I press B, I think it is, it should add the item to the lowest point of the inventory. I just press B and nothing happened. I'm gonna press it again. Nothing's happened. Oh, there they are. What? Well, why does it stop there? All right, I fixed it. Everything's fine. Here we go. We load into the game. I press B. There we go. I can add items to the inventory. Very cool, very cool. I can add all the way up until number 3 because that's the max inventory that I specified. I'm pressing B. Nothing's happening because my inventory is full. Let's make it so I can remove stuff. Okay, so I already set up a system for removing items. I'm going to go over to my trusty dusty debugger here to primitively insert and remove items. I'm also going to make another item like this. Just call it like default sword. I'll make this image some random image. Let's make it this bone influence 2x image. Okay, so here we are in the game. I'm gonna add items by pressing B. There we go, I can add items. Let's see, I'm gonna replace this and see if I can add that bone image. It does work, very good. Let's see if I can replace. Let's try to replace the item, or remove the item at 0, 1, 2. So position 2, which should be this scythe right here that I'm highlighting. If I press N, there we go, it removes it. If I make it 3, I can remove this item here. Very cool, very cool. And then if I were to want to insert more items to the inventory, it'll try to insert them at the farthest to the top or the farthest to the first of the list. So there we go, there we go. And then it adds it there. That should add boom, boom, boom. Working beautifully. Very good. I just made the inventory interactable. So if I add items to the inventory, I can actually move them around now with my mouse. Let me just put a different item in and show you that they can switch around. I can place them anywhere on the slots. Yeah, it's working really good. So I finished up 2 things for the inventory system. The first thing is a UI animator. I can change the settings for the UI and hopefully it works with different aspect ratios. I tried my best to work with the Unity UI scaler thing, but I hate it. The second thing was my main goal of this video, which is connecting the inventory to my players' weapons animations, which I have done. I have some weapons in here. I can move them around. These are considered weapons. This bone influence 2x is actually a short sword, and the scythe is the scythe. So I'm gonna move this item over to number 5, and then what happened? What? What? I'm pretty sure I fixed all the issues I had. Everything's working how it should work. I had to reorder a little bit of stuff. I'm gonna put some stuff in my hotbar. Kind of hard to see with those googles in the background. So let me jump up here. Okay, so if I press 1, boom, I equip a scythe. Now if I press 2, it's gonna de-equip the scythe and equip a weapon. Nice. If I press 2 again, it'll just de-equip the weapon. Now here's the kicker. I'm gonna press 2, equip the weapon. I'm gonna move this over to here, to number 8. And if I press 8 on my keyboard, it'll de-equip it. So the items in the inventory have an identity, and the player updates that identifier properly, which is good. I can equip 2 weapons at the same time, like this. One thing is, if I equip 2 short swords, right, a 2-handed thing, I'm gonna press 6 to equip my first short sword, and then 7 to equip my second one. If I de-equip number 6 on my hotbar, that's my main handed short sword, so I have to de-equip the other one. And it indeed does work. So I'm gonna do a little code review. This part of the video is probably more boring. I'll try to make it as entertaining as possible. So if we go over to my code here, we start with our entry point, which is our player inventory. That kind of gives us all of the information for the inventory system. I wanted to make it relatively standalone, so it doesn't require any other components, any other mono behaviors. The big thing here is my class, the inventory item instance, which basically is like a wrapper for the specific item. It has an equip variable, so if the item is equipped or not, its key in the inventory, its inventory position, so those 2 things are different. And then of course like the item itself, and in this item class there's just display name. It's just a scriptable object. Very simple stuff. My item here is actually the physical item that gets equipped. It's like the prefab. I have some public variables. Pretty simple public variables like add item, different types of adding items, different types of adding items at, so add an inventory position instead, removing items, all of those things. Very simple, but they get a little complex, especially when it comes to like swapping items. The way the inventory system relays the information is through Unity events. So I just have a Unity event on add item and on remove item. Super simple, and it just gives that event, it gives the packet, the inventory item instance packet. And in the editor, if I hop over to the editor and I go to my player script, here we go, it's right here, on add item, on remove item. This can be given many different event actions. Specifically for me, it's on my inventory renderer. So in my inventory renderer, basically I have these inventory slot lines, which just render a line of the inventory. If I go into my scene view here, and I highlight a slot here, you can see that there's a specific slot line, and it can be changed and moved around. These functions are kind of their own standalone functionality that talk to each other from my inventory slot line and my inventory render, like the full inventory render. I'd say this class is very not flexible. Here's those public methods on add item and on remove item. They're just linked with my player inventory. So this is like the one link that we have. And all it does is talk to those line renderers and get the proper position. When I want to move items in the inventory from position to position by dragging and dropping, obviously the UI itself is the one that has that information. So it needs to talk back to the player inventory script, the standalone script. And I'll show you how it does that. I have an event here called request swap slots. And basically I have some private events that are like on drop that are subscribed to the specific object that's been spawned in. And all it does is on a specific instance, when you mouse up, when you're dragging and you mouse up, it'll request that slot change. And the slot change is obviously talking to our player inventory script. And we actually have a public boolean, and we have a public void, which allows Unity to actually talk to it, which is just swap item positions. And it's making sure the dictionary has the key, it's making sure that the items exist. And if they don't exist, it won't just populate it with an empty item. So moving on to our hotbar control, which is when I have an item in my inventory, I place it in the hotbar. I can press 2 to equip it and 2 to dequip it. That gets a little more complicated, and it had me actually had to refactor a lot of stuff because I'm like, I don't like how this works. I want it to be a little more understandable, I guess, per se. So let's look at it. In our input controller, I'm using Unity's old system because I haven't learned the new system yet. If we go to check UI controls, here it is. First of all, the tab, which opens and closes the inventory slot. Really all it does is talk to that animator and say, hey, like go active, go inactive. Pretty simple stuff. Here's where things get a little confusing. I'm looping through my 1 through 9 keys. This is probably not very efficient to do, and I bet you the Unity's like new input system would be way better. But for now it works. I'm looping through the keys. I'm checking if I press the key. And if I did, well, we're going to select that hotbar slot according to the ID of the slot hotbar. So we're just subtracting by key 1, which makes it 0 at 1, 1 at 2, on forth. In that script, it's our player hotbar control. Pretty small script, but it's there so that the naming convention makes sense. All we're going to do is that we're going to get our inventory ID from our hotbar item ID, which is in our inventory renderer, because in our inventory renderer, our hotbar is actually part of the inventory. So I decided that the last line in our inventory control will be our hotbar. Basically, it just grabs all of the lines and gets the last one and makes sure that the position is right. And this is that kind of standalone process that really is not like the best way to do it, but at least it's only talking through one line of communication, which means that if I want to change anything about the inventory renderer, the only line of communication changing would be that request hotbar item, which is good. So on our hotbar select, now we're going to ask the inventory, our actual inventory, the one that is storing all that information, that really important information. Hey, is there an item there? Like, is there a weapon there? And if there's not, well, then we're just going to leave the function because the hotbar slot is empty. If there is an item there, well, let's ask if it's equipped. If it is equipped, well, we'll dequip the item. If it isn't equipped, well, then we're gonna equip the item. This script sucks. I wrote this script a while ago. It makes no sense. It's called a player use controller, but really it's just like the equip controller, but it also has some use functionality. I don't know. It's huge. It's disgusting, but it works. All it's doing here is when you equip an item, you give it that inventory item instance. It'll build an item off of it, new item, which is the actual prefab, the actual game object. All it's doing is instantiating it. I could object pool, but I don't think I need to because it's only happening every time that you equip or dequip, which really never scales. When we set that item, we're setting some of its controller information so that it works properly with like the player controller. And that's a whole different process, but the important thing is that we're giving it the key for the inventory. So it can always talk to the inventory manager and know exactly where the item is in the inventory, even if the positions change. Now all we need to do is tell our player inventory that we actually equip the item. So when we equip an item, we're checking, well, okay, do we have a player inventory that's reference? Yes. Okay, well, let's equip the item because we have actually equipped it. And that goes back to our player inventory control. We'll equip the item. Same thing when we dequip an item with the graphics. So I know that was a lot, but put all of that together and you get the grossest looking UI, but it functions. The items have their own IDs and they work with the character. So our inventory system is working, but now I need an entity system to like pick up and throw down items so that the inventory actually can be populated and removed, which is a whole nother process, and that will be in another video.